Yes, what's happening, people? Hope you're all well. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the show. It's me and Lee with you today. Thought we'd do a bit of something in the afternoon because a lot of people at the moment are talking about our football club, and me and Lee are no different. I want to hear from how Lee's feeling after a couple of days after defeat to Fulham, moving into 2024 with the transfer window open. So we thought we'd do a bit of a Q&A with you. Any questions that you've got for either myself or Lee, or just in general Arsenal, then please make sure you put it in the chat. Make sure that you put a Q next to it so that I know that it's a question. I can then star it. And then also, if you do want to put it in the super chat, of course, that'll go to the front of the queue. How is Lee Judges after 48 hours after a pretty poor defeat, bruv? How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm still suffering. Like I was in the gym today, and a Spurs fan came up to me and turned around and said, "Oh, the wheels have fell off, gloating and all that." Like, you know, he was a lot bigger than me. Otherwise, I'd have punched him. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it's just how it is at the moment, isn't it? Like, you know, so you just got to take it on the chin. Disappointed. Look, how I see it over the last sort of 48 hours. Look, we've lost games this season. I've not lost me. I've not. What's the word I'm looking for? I've not lost my confidence in the team and all that. Like, but that game on Sunday, I've lost confidence in the squad, confidence in the team, confidence in the managers. It was a real kick-in for me, like that game, because I see a lot of traits that I've seen over the last sort of 4 years come back, and I thought we'd gone past all that. Like, you know, I really loved it last season, going to games, really look forward to going to games. I was excited about going, and you know, towards the end of the season, yeah, there was disappointment, but it was still great watch and everything like that. I'm going to games now, nervous, feeling very, very
deflated.
Yeah, especially coming away from them and all that. Like, I had no confidence going into that game on Sunday, and then, you know, halfway through it, you just miles realistically, and it's not the first time this season. 3 or 4 times now, you could have just packed up at 70 minutes and gone home. Well, we ain't scoring, you know. So that's how it is for me at this moment in time. And I can say that, look, we've got it down, and I understand it. That sometimes we put ourselves out there because this is what we do. But, you know, people come back to you and say, yeah, oh, don't support the team like this. Support it, you know, like, you know, don't be overreact. Don't do this, don't do that. You know what I mean? You know, don't tell me
how to support your team now, mate.
Yeah, listen, everybody can follow and support their team how they like. And listen, not everybody's the same, Dan, you know what I mean? Like, I'm one of these people, like, you know, that will have a rant and shout and scream for after the game, and then I'll get on with my life again, like, you know what I mean? Other people don't let it bother them, like, you know what I mean? I don't agree with some people that like smile and have a laugh after games and all that, but I don't go up to them and go, oh, you shouldn't be smiling today, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. It's what, you know, it's a prerogative of you as a fan. Now, if you think it's all doom and gloom at the minute, that's fine, you know what I mean? I've heard people turn around and say it's only 2 games that we've lost. It's not been 2 games, in my opinion. You know what I mean? If that's your opinion, fine. I think it's been more than that. I didn't lose my stuff against West Ham because I felt that was one off. But this and what I'm seeing now has been brewing all season, Dan, in my opinion. And that's how I look at it.
The reason I'm with you is because there's a lot of people in the fan base that just see it as a bump in the road. But the reason I'm just over it now is because I've seen too many bumps in the road every season with this guy. Like, honestly, how many bumps in the road are we going to have where we have a cluster of results like this? We had it when we went for the top 4 with, was it Palace, Brighton and Southampton? We lost all 3 of them, if you remember. Last season, we had a cluster against Liverpool, West Ham and Southampton, and then Brighton and Forest back-to-back. And now already we've lost, is that 3 defeats now? Yeah, 4 defeats now. And we've also had poor results against some of the other clubs at home. That isn't just a bump in the road, man. There's something not quite right, and that's what we need to discuss, man.
Couldn't agree more.
Let's
the
get
other
to
thing
it,
is,
man.
Dan, which is the other thing that's really funny about it is that, you know, when we was having all the success, certain people, you know, DM you or message you like, you know, you should have backed Mikel, should say this, should say that, you know. Now it's all gone a bit tricky. I ain't heard from them. They gone on holiday. They just disappear.
It's
They just
funny,
go
isn't it? The
away, don't
5G
say
goes
nothing.
down,
And
mate.
then,
The
like,
5G
then
goes down.
when it's going, well, I told you this, I told you that, I knew this, and I know that. And then when we lose a couple of games, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? You're nowhere. You're nowhere. Where are you? You're nowhere. I don't see them from like, you know what I mean? That's how it is, like, So, listen, I'm desperate for Arsenal to do well. Of course we are. You know what I mean? You know, I know this is a really bad thing, Dan. I don't know how you feel about this, and perhaps you can enlighten me as well. Like, but when people say have you had a good Christmas and a good New Year, I've had to sort of lie a little bit because even though I've had a good time with the family and all that, it ain't been great because Arsenal have been shit over Christmas.
Yeah, again, this is when people say to me, "Oh, you need to chill out. You need to go and do something else if it gets you that much." Sorry, man. I've always been the same. My football club comes first, and a lot of the time, it does control my mood. Now, there's more important things in football. Do not get me wrong. However, it does control my mood. It puts me in a good mood if Arsenal win. I'm
Yeah,
disappointed if we don't get the result I want, and it really ruins it when I start to get people pieing on it as well, right? Now, I can take banter on one, and I do, I mean, that I run my own channel which has more than just Arsenal content on it, and people give each other banter, and we go for it, right? But actually, it really does put you in a bad mood because you've got to actually deal with a load and load of crap over the next few days, and that's what's going to happen. And we've got to hold that. And unfortunately, there is a lot of questions that need to be answered, in my opinion. And I can't sit there and say that it's been a nice Christmas and New Year as far as football's concerned. Sarah, Happy New Year. Lee and Dan, Happy New Year to you,
Happy New
Sarah.
Year, Sarah. Happy New Year.
I hope you had a great festive period, and I hope Arsenal didn't ruin it for you, darling. Listen, let's get some of the questions going because we've got quite a lot of people that want to ask us stuff, Lee. And there's some really good ones, to be fair. Let's start with the fact that the transfer window is open, and something that could give us all a little bit of a lift, I suppose, is some signings. But who's a realistic option, do you think, to go for in January? I'll ask you that, judges.
Well, look, listen, I was talking about this earlier on, like, you know what I mean? And two realistic signings that I think would make us better. I still don't know if we get them, but Premier League experience. I've been really, really impressed with them. Lamina at Wolves, holding midfield player.
Lamina, yeah.
I think it's been every time I've watched him, he's really, really impressed me.
He's good at Southampton as well, to be fair, wasn't he?
Huh?
He's good at Southampton. You talk about a Southampton lad.
No, I don't know where he come from. He plays for Wolves now. Like, scored against Spurs in the last minute.
I'm sure it's Mario Lamina you're talking about.
All right, was he at Southampton? Like,
I'm sure he was at Southampton. I'm sure he was. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I'm sure he was at Southampton.
I've watched him about 4 or 5 times now. Every time I've watched him play, I think he's been excellent. I'm not saying he won for Arsenal, like, you know what I mean? Yeah, he was at Juventus and Southampton, like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
There you go, yeah.
I think he is a quality player. Someone that will come in right now and take it. If you put the right money to Wolves, they couldn't turn it down. And look, if they could turn it down, you just give them another player or whatever, like, you know. And I'm going to tell you another player that's really impressed me at Nottingham Forest, Gibbs White. I've been so impressed with him, like, you know what I mean? And they're two players that could come in, and I think do that because I don't think when you talk about realistic, Dan, we ain't getting a striker. We ain't. That ain't happening. I'll be very, very surprised if it's going to happen, but we need it in other areas, like, you know. Now, defensively, I don't know where you want to go on that, like, you know what I mean? But I think we need to get in a proper fallback, if I'll be really honest. Do you know what I'm saying? Someone like Kieran Tierney, someone like that, a proper fallback.
And call him back, mate. Call him back. That's what I say.
Yeah, but somebody like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, maybe a little bit more reliable with Kieran, if I'll be honest. Because
injury wise.
And yeah, somebody like that. But someone that can play the fullback role properly. You know, I know Timber can do it, but you know, people are telling me, "Oh, Timber will be back in February." Well, you know, if he is, I don't think he's going to be the same player till next season at least. You know what I mean? So, if at all with that injury, you know. So, listen, you know, they're the sort of players that I think Arsenal are going to have to look at. Something like that. I don't know what you think about it, but that's me being realistic. Like, you know what I mean? That we could go for. But again, that's all about opinions, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, I mean, if you want my opinion, I'll come into this next question with it. We need to be active in the January transfer market, but unfortunately, when I rated the window, it was very, very different to some of the other fans who thought it was a fantastic summer window, 9 out of 10 window, fantastic. We got Declan Rice, we bought Kai Havertz, who we're going to turn into the next, Dennis Bergkamp. We've got Timber, who's going to come and be a good fullback for us. And I just saw ourselves with more holes that we need filling, and I still feel that way. Dr. Seymour Butts said, "Big up Dan and Lee, great show yesterday. We definitely need a striker and a proper left back. How do we know either of those players don't go missing under this manager's tactics?" Which we'll come on to. So a few questions about Arteta's tactics. For me, I know people will say it's unrealistic, but I don't see how it is. Ivan Toney should be a realistic signing for Arsenal. We've just got £72 million for our last 16 Champions League place. You put that towards Ivan Toney, and if they still want more, you sell somebody like an Eddie or Reece Nelson or Smith Rowe or someone like that who ain't playing, and you add the money you get from him to Brentford and go and get Ivan Toney. So if I said to you now, would you rather have Eddie Nketiah or Ivan Toney? There ain't nobody on this panel that's telling me Eddie Nketiah. I'm sorry. After the performances we've seen from him over the last couple of years, we've still got him. And I don't see upgrades enough at the moment, and I don't see ruthlessness across the whole team. I see it when Arteta fancies it. That's not being a ruthless manager. That's just being an inconsistent manager for me. So people can sit there and say, I like his ruthlessness of making changes. I like the way he's been ruthless with a goalkeeper. He wants better. He wants better. But he ain't done it with consistently with other positions. So that's where I'm at. So, yeah, realistically, that's the target I think we should be going for, 100%. This next one is bizarre. I've not heard this one. Gooner Lad says, apparently we've been linked with Curtis Jones. One, Liverpool ain't going to sell him to us. Let me tell you that now. And two, I think personally, he is a player that would do a job in a squad. He's not going to take us to a league title. And that might be harsh on Curtis Jones. I think he's done well with the last few games that I've seen him play. But that's not the sort of player I'll be looking at personally. Lee?
No, same me. As I said, I mentioned the two that I would take before him, if I'll be honest. Yeah, and there's probably a few more in front of him, if I'll be really, really honest. I think we need to sort out our midfield. I think, if I'll be really honest, I think now Thomas Partey, I don't think is going to be around this season. Definitely not after this season, anyway. I would look to move Jorginho on and El Neni. Nothing against them two. I think they could have been good servants for us and all that, but they're not being used. So we've got to, look at getting them. Like Jorginho, for instance, there's no Thomas Partey at the moment. It's not hardly had a kick, same as El Neni, really. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the surplus to requirements and move it on, freshen it up.
No, I think that's absolutely fine. This did make me laugh from Lee Bowley. He says, whoever's out of favour at Chelsea right now is obviously Emirates bound. Let's hope not, man. Let's keep that relationship. It needs to be done and dusted, man. I can't be dealing with that anymore. This obsession with Chelsea and Arsenal players has just got to stop. Let's move on to some of the manager questions. So this one comes in from Ash West. Big up, Ash. Hope you're well, mate. He says, are you happy with Arteta's man management? What do you think it will take for the board to say that enough is enough? Arteta's £700 million down the drain. What do you think of this man management stuff with Arteta? Because I still stand by that cost us last season. Because against Liverpool in the 2-0 up at Anfield, he left Zinchenko on when everyone knew he was getting skimmed by Trent, and we end up conceding a goal. Against West Ham, we were crying out for a striker. He took Jesus off and put Jorginho on when it was 2-2. What the hell is he doing? And then at Southampton, he started Fabio Vieira when Granit Xhaka was ill, and we were 3-1 down. So there's a lot of in-game management I saw. Holding starting instead of Kivior. Now he gets binned out. Kivior's now playing in. Goes to Man City playing Holding. There's a lot I saw, Lee, and I thought, yeah, you're just not quite ready, bro. And now already we're starting to see his man management being very, very questioned in a number of departments, Lee.
Yeah, look, listen, I think going back to last season, you know what I mean, he did get things wrong and all that, but he did get a lot of things right going before that, and that I give him credit for. And, I was thinking, right, he might have learned from that. Might be a bit more ruthless and all that. I think some of his decisions today will ultimately cost us some. I've always said it, that I think the goalkeeping situation will cost us. You know, it shouldn't have done. I think the way he's come out and said it has put more pressure on it and everything like that. If that's what if he wanted to do that, and that was the one that he wanted, I think what he should have done was gone in there. And then you talk about handling players and man management and all that. He's gone in there and said, right, I've been chasing this man for he's the one. Aaron, I'm going to let you go, and sold Aaron, brought in a proper number 2, and then this would not have happened, in my opinion. This would not have happened what we've got now. Like, you know, I think it's I think that it's affected the dynamics of the dressing room, because how I see it, and people might laugh at me and all that, like, you know, if you're playing someone that's done what he's done for a couple of years, and then you dump him for someone that is in no better, you'll be looking at it and going, well, if he's done that to him, he can do that to me, and maybe even with someone even better and all that, like, you know. And I've just give you 3 years of my really give it everything, like, in the last couple of years and all that, like. And people will turn around, Dan, and say to you, like, you know, oh, well, that's how it should be. You know what I mean? Like, you know, Ramsdale can't take us to the next level, right? So yeah, well, maybe then the board and the owner should be looking at the manager then. Like, if that's the case, you know what I mean? What's right for somewhere, it's right somewhere down the other line. You know what I mean? If you're going to be ruthless. Now, I'm not saying that and I state this now, I'm not on the train yet of Mikel out. I'm not. I'm on the train of start showing us that you can be the manager that's going to take us to the title. You're under pressure.
Does he only get this season for you, though, Lee? Does he only get this season to prove that? Because he's had a long time.
Yeah, I think this season's going to be a lot on that. Like, you know, I look at it and you know, there's a clip going out what I've done on Forever Arsenal today, where I was saying about Eddie Howe. You know, like they've only shown you.
I love that, by the way. I love that.
Yeah, you've only got to show that. You only show a little bit of a clip. But what has Eddie Howe done in the last year that Mikel ain't done? Mikel, puts to challenge for a title. You could say Newcastle challenged for a little while, but ultimately they got to the top 4. Where it's different for Eddie, and where I think that he's under a little bit more pressure, is because, you know, they've gone out of the Champions League. But look what group they was in to go out of the Champions League, like, you know. So that's where he's under pressure. So what I'm saying is, if Arsenal, dare I say it, were to lose to Porto, I'm you know, then there's serious questions on the manager. But what I see, and I've seen it for, you know, a conversation, you know what I mean? Like, I've been in the on the train coming home with my mates and all that. Eddie Howe's under pressure now. Well, he's under pressure. You know what I mean? He's the next one to go. What about Mikel? Oh no, he's safe as anything, like, you know what I mean? So why is it that Eddie is the one now that's under the pressure? And he is, you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you know, oh, he won't last the end of the season if this carries on. He done fantastically well at Newcastle last season, got him into top 4, you know, to the promised land, and that's what Mikel was done with us, and done well to get us into the top 4. And I think that he will get us top 4 again this season, but I think it's going to be a struggle. I think, you know, you look at things towards the end of last season, Dan, you know, and let's take those. And I know it's a bit harsh to take it through. So this is what annoys me a little bit about. You can't go into 2 seasons like the back of last season, the beginning of this one, right? You know, but they will do with with Emery. They go, oh yeah, well, look at Emery's done there. You know, Emery's been the second best team over a points basis from year to year, like, you know. Well, look at Arsenal from year to year. We're bang average, mate. And I tell you where we're bang average. You know, like, you go into those games, we lost to Everton, then we've gone and lost to Manchester City, we've then gone and lost to Brighton, then we've gone and lost to Nottingham Forest. You know what I mean? Drew with West Ham, drew with Southampton, and then you look at the games going into it now. Drew with Fulham, drew with Spurs, lost to Newcastle, lost to Aston Villa, lost to West Ham, lost to Fulham. There's a lot of a lot of defeats in there. You know what I mean? So when you analyse it and all that, like it's not great, Dan. It's not great. You know what I mean?
Do you know how I'll sum it up? I will be exactly the same as I was before a ball was kicked. He needs to win something this season, or there needs to be context for why he should keep the job. And if it isn't the way that I believe it should be, then Mikel Arteta, there is absolutely no pressure on you whatsoever, and I'm coming for the ownership, because there needs to be questions and accountability for where we're going as a football club. And if you think that top four and are we near, we threw away trophies, but we're a Champions League now, it was our first year, we'll give it another go this year, give him another transfer window, then I'm coming for the Cronkies and I want them gone, because they are showing neglect and lack of ambition to win. And I don't want owners that just get top four, because otherwise we should have just kept Wenger, mate. Should have just kept Wenger. So if we start to go down that road and we start to go, oh yeah, Champions League, just get top four, we'll give you another load of money and we'll go again. If that's the attitude from the ownership, then that's me. They showed me exactly what it is that I questioned, and that was ambition. Because I'm still not Cronky's loving, by the way. I'm not sitting there saying they've done everything right, because this is their project, by the way, that we're all questioning. This is a person who employed this manager. So I'm going to ask questions, man, 100%. Let's come to Mitchell's question, Lee, who's very similar to what I was segueing to. If Arteta gets top four, wins nothing, where do you boys stand? Now, we're going to get these questions now, and there's still a long way to go. And when you're losing, it's easier to ask these questions. When you're winning, you start to say, oh, what will happen if Arteta wins the league? What will happen if he wins the Champions League when we beat Lens 6-0? But because we're at that stage now where we're going through a difficult time, these are the questions that, unfortunately, people like you and I as content creators are going to have to ask and answer. And I don't mind answering them personally, because I've been consistent throughout. If top four win and we win nothing, take care. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for getting a squad together that can pretty much compete for a couple of years now. But you ain't the right guy to take us over the line. Go and join Brendan Rodgers at Rangers and fight him with Celtic. That's where you're at. That's where I'm going to be, because he's a nearly there manager if he gets to top four with nothing trophy. If he puts us in a title race, we don't win a trophy, and we take Man City to the wire, there's context. If you get to a Champions League final and Real Madrid beat you, there's no shame in losing to the giants of Europe, right? In Europe. That's different. But if we lose to Liverpool and we lose to Porto and we come fourth, I want him gone. Is that a crime to say that, Lee?
No, and I totally agree with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you look at there. I think I'm at the boat. If Manchester City come above us, I can take that and go, right. Well, yeah, I can go that. But Liverpool were miles behind us last season. And now all of a sudden, it's for them to get above us and look much better than us. I'll be like not happy about it. But if we got in top four and it was a battle between the three of us and we ended up coming third, maybe. If Tottenham Hotspur come above us, I think like the manager then is under real pressure, because there's no way that with all what's gone at Tottenham this year, as losing Harry Kane, losing their best striker, all the injuries there, if they come above us at the end of this season. You know what I mean? That is a failure of the highest level, considering also how many points that we got in front of them last season. And Aston Villa, I'm bringing into that. There's no way those teams should be bridging the gap.
Bruno Emery and Emi Martinez finish above us. That we are in the mud.
Yeah, but there's no way they should be from what we had last season to that. It would be a massive drop off and a worry. So. Listen, at this moment in time, what I think is, and this is what I'm going to be excited about, is now, what do you do from now on? Like, you know what I mean? Like FA Cup game, what are you going to do? No game for a couple of weeks. I expect Arsenal to go strong, and I expect them to give it a real good go in that game, like, and then I want to see you come back against Crystal Palace, and I want to see us completely different to what we are now. And then I'm going to go, right, Mikel, I'm going to back you to the end of the season and beyond. But at this moment in time, he has got now to win me back my confidence in him and the team. Like, that's how I see it, because it's been eroded over so many games this season, and that last game was a big concern for me, a big concern, because
thanks, mate.
That they should have, if we win that game, we go top, and you look at it and go, do you know what? That's a blip. That was a poor performance against West Ham. We can move, but like I I'm worried what I see against West Ham, and I'm worried against what I see against Fulham, and also worried what I see against Aston Villa when we never look like scoring. Newcastle when we never look like scoring. So I'm in that boat there. I'm not going to be one of these people looking at the transfer market and saying, right, we need this and we got to get this and everything like that. What will be on that side of it all. And I don't think that's down to Mikel. What Mikel's got to do now is go away when he sits in his lovely Dubai hotel, fully paid by the Arsenal, right, and sit there and go, right, what can I do to make our defence better? What can I do to make our players that have been playing poorly better? And how do I get those front three firing again, And I think that's very, very important. Now, Turkish made a very good point on Forever Arsenal yesterday. As much as the free-flowing football that we played last season, we kept loads of clean sheets away from home last year. If you go back to it, you know what I mean? I remember going Fulham last year, 3-0. Tottenham Hotspur, 2-0. Palace. You know what I mean? With those, all that attacking flair. Chelsea away, yeah. With all that attacking flair, with all of that flair that we was playing, we've gone to places like that and kept clean sheets. And still,
when we did concede, we didn't lose the games. When we did concede, we might have been frustrated. Of course, we lost games, but we would win 4-2. We win 3-2. We win 3-1. We win 2-1. It wasn't all about trying to win 1-0 and 2-1. And I'm not fine by that, by the way, because I grew up on George Brown, and I know that you do as well, right? So I'm
there you go.
Fine. But
Brentford, Wolves being mentioned now, like Leeds away last season being mentioned, with Ramsdale in goal, the same back four, right? Not conceding from set pieces and entertaining football, Now all of a sudden, with this way that we're playing now, 2 goals against Chelsea, conceding against other teams and all that, it's just something not right. So
more control,
rip it up and go back to what we did last season. Exactly the same thing, I mean, if you want to keep Raya in goal instead of Ramsdale, that's your prerogative. But I tell you what, he better start improving because and results at this moment in time, or be the big man, Mikel. Put your hand up and go, do you know what? I've got this wrong. Sorry, Raya. We're going back to the tried and trusted, and that means he comes in and we go free flow. I look at the games against Aston Villa, and you might think I'm wrong here, Dan, and people might think I'm wrong, but I look at that game against Fulham, and I'm not blaming Raya for the goal, the first goal, but it goes under his body. You've got somewhere along the line, you've got to save them. You've got to save them. Like Newcastle away is another one. Cheers, Tucky, another one that's been mentioned. Somewhere along the line. 2-2 against Aston Villa last season, breakaway, unbelievable save from Ramsdale. Then we go up and win the game. I mean, these are the sort of things that we do, and Chris, thanks for being on there, Chris, and watching, this whole goalkeeping situation is a ripper. I 100% agree with that. It's not actually Raya's fault, and it's not a goalkeeping fault with all that. It's the dynamics of it, I think has put a lot of thing on it, and all of a sudden we're not the same. So be the big man, Mikel, and go back to what you done last season. I'll tell you what, I'd rather miss out on the league by 2 points, 3 points or 4 points playing the football we done last season than what we're doing at this moment in time. I'm not enjoying games of football, Dan. I'll be really honest. I'm not enjoying. All right, we've won against Brentford, right? I didn't enjoy that game. For 70 minutes against Chelsea, I didn't enjoy that game. The season before that, I loved it. You know what I mean? We was attacking them left, right, and centre and all that. I can go on another go. I haven't enjoyed Newcastle away this year. Even if it would have ended 0-0, Aston Villa was a letdown. And Fulham this time here. I've actually said it 4 or 5 times now, walking away from the games. We'd be out there till tomorrow and we wouldn't score.
Yeah.
I never said that once last year, Dan.
No, it weren't Richie, was it? And what's mad is I was just listening to another show, and big up to Saeed and his panel, but I was watching that earlier and they were talking about the players that we are being now comparing ourselves to our current squad. And Lewis, bless him, Carefree Lewis, big up to Lewis, man. He's a Chelsea fan and he's one that sits there in turmoil at the moment. Their attack's got better stats than ours, Lee. And they're a shambles. Mudryk and Mudaweki are scoring what Martinelli's doing. People are laughing. People didn't want any of them. We've got, what's his name? Jackson up top, outscoring Jesus. Palmer, outscoring Saka. Like, that shouldn't be happening. Chelsea are down in 10th. What's going on? So there is a problem with our style. None of these players, by the way, are rubbish. I'm not having that. I'm not having this, oh, they're just not really doing it at the moment. There might be a little bit of that. But for me, mainly, it's the style. Because we are absolutely one of two things. Getting sussed out and have changed the style. Now, you mentioned saying earlier about not conceding and all this stuff. Why has he changed it? No one knows. No one has a clue. Our style of play last season did not lose us the league. I don't care what anyone says, right? It was not our style of play. It wasn't, Christ, Arsenal are doing well here. Well, they need to change their style if they want to win the league. They ain't winning it like that. They ain't winning it like that, scoring loads of goals. 15 goals apiece, no thank you. Get them down to 5 each. Get them more controlled. Get them winning 1-0. Load of crap. I don't buy it, yeah? The goalkeeper stuff, agreed. The Department of Defence is a mess where it shouldn't be. We've got one of the guys out on loan who can defend. The ones who can't have stayed here. In midfield, we've still got El Neni, mate. We've still got El Neni and Jorginho, and we ain't replaced Partey. Oh, he's injured again. No one saw that coming. Now we've got up top, we've still got Eddie. We've still got Reece Nelson coming on the bench to win us a game. This bench is no different to last season, man. It's crazy. And people were saying, oh, we've done well with £200 million. £200 million and we're worse. So I want to ask you these next two, Lee, that are very, very similar. Alina Kana says, how do we get the best out of Saka and Martinelli? And Lee Bowlier says, do you believe that Martinelli's form would be an issue if Arteta brought Maddison instead of Havertz? In Havertz, would he honestly see that other managers? What did he honestly see that other managers didn't? Where are you with this Saka and Martinelli thing? Is this a thing that they've got to look at themselves? Have we got to look at the change of the style? Is there a reason that perhaps some of the players around them have changed and they're not quite the same team? Where are you at, bro?
Listen, I've watched both of them the other day very, very closely. Saka was coming down my side. He was awful. Absolutely awful. I don't know what's gone on there. Like, you know what I mean? It's that teams have looked at him there. If someone asked a question on something, why does Mo Salah not have 2 players or 3 players surrounding him like Saka does? I don't know. I don't know why he does. And there he is, this most dangerous sort of a player. But what I think that, you know, teams are sort of sussed onto it a little bit. Like, you know, I don't know if you notice that Odegaard goes in there and they make these little 1-2s and things like that. But what they've actually done is say, right, well, you know, we're not letting you come inside because if you do, like, we're going to have 3 or 4 in there and it just gets out blocked and all that. There was a couple of times, even as poor as he was against Fulham, he had an open goal and one when he went round a couple of players and it was a good defense. I think it was Paulinho to come across and done his job. But I think that there's things that are not quite happening for the two of them. Like I see them too wide. I watched the game, you know, trying to suss it really, like, you know what I mean? Even when we're playing, I've never seen play. I know I get it to a certain degree when you're at home, but away from home, to see 3 players so wide apart from each other, like, you know, you had Saka right out on the right wing, touching the line, Martinelli doing the other, and then Jesus down the middle. Well, how can them 3 combine and get patterns of play together when they're so wide and all that? So I think that at the end of the day is like get them to come inside a little bit, and then you've got the option of Martin Odegaard or Ben White going as a decoy run most times, doing that, so it gives him the and the same with Martinelli. Now, when Martinelli was on the left-hand side, Granit Xhaka used to do that, not Zinchenko. Zinchenko used to come inside, and Granit Xhaka used to push out wide and get into those little pockets. And so we haven't got that now because Kai Havertz doesn't do that. It's a little bit different. At the end of it, you know, not everybody's the same then. So, you know, to replace Xhaka is going to be difficult because you've got to replace it with different names, different way of playing. So I get why they're trying to do it with Havertz, but he's been there long enough now to work out a system and go from it there. But it's just not them two. You know, I think they need, for them to be flourishing, they need their other players to help them out. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so you, like Saka has to have Ben White going down that flank, giving him all that sort of support and all that. That's not been there so much. Odegaard has not been quite as good as what he was. So that's just breaking down a little bit. Like on the other side with Martinelli, you know, he's had how many number 8s has he had playing for him?
Yeah.
You know, so that he hasn't got the understanding with a number 8 if he hasn't there. And if I be really honest, like Shinchenko and Kivior and Tommy Asu have been sharing that position there. So I think that what it needs to do is get proper people, the right team in there and go there. And I just think get them a little bit closer together and things like that. And seeing what I see last season with a lot of interchanging between Jesus. Do you remember the goal? Do you remember we were struggling a little bit against Wolves last season? I don't know if you remember the game. It was just before the World Cup break. We beat them 2-0 in the end. I think Odegaard got both goals. But we was finding it very, very hard to break them down. And all of a sudden, Jesus went out wide and there was, I think, a lovely little pass from him. And I think it was Vieira that put the ball
Vieira
across.
come on and he did well.
Yeah. Put the cross for a goal. But we haven't got that little bit of variety into our game at this moment in time. They're all sort of staying in their same positions and things like that. So I think that needs to be done. Look, to get them two back playing, go back to last season. Let them off the leash a little bit, like, you know what I mean? Like, be a bit more free-flowing.
Do you think this has got anything to do with it? It's a good question, this. South of London's finest says, guys, what do you think Rice is in this team, an 8 or a 6? Because some people are judging him to do what an 8 would do. For me, we don't have a natural 8 in the squad, having spent £700 million. Now, I've probably spent most of these podcasts that I've done since I've met you, bro, talking about Granit Xhaka and how we need an upgrade. And I was really, really excited about finally getting that position upgraded. Even though he had a great, great season, I weren't crying about it because I thought Declan Rice was coming and we'd be fine there. We haven't been able to utilise that because, of course, Thomas Partey's been injured. But that, again, goes down to the recruitment, that we have not quite sorted out our midfield. Now, I remember on the last game of last season, I said, look, let's sort this out now properly. Let's go and get Caicedo and Rice. Let's go and get Diaby and Kudus. Let's go and get James Maddison. I remember listing all these players out that I really wanted to sign. And Declan Rice was the only one that we got out of that list. I didn't want Havertz. I didn't really know much about Timber until I started watching him when we were linked with him. I didn't want Raya because I didn't feel like a goalkeeper was needed. And I certainly was calling out for Ivan Toney for a striker, right? But Declan Rice has actually had to play 6 and 8. And this is where I'm at. Declan Rice, I think he's been phenomenal, right? Playing 6 and 8. But for me, we should have got that position sorted when Granit Xhaka said goodbye, because we needed 2 coming in. And that's if you want to keep hold of it. Now, where I'm at, Lee, is I don't like looking forward to the summer. But when we do go to the summer, El Neni's not going to be here. Jorginho's not going to be here. Partey probably ain't going to be here. So we're going to be left with Declan Rice. So in the summer, if we don't get one in January, we're probably going to need 2 or 3 in the summer. So our midfield is still not right. And I understand why people see it as a priority still. I don't really have a priority personally because I feel that we're a bit gappy everywhere, if I'm honest with you. We haven't got one department that I'm happy with in this squad still. 4 years in, 8 week transfer windows down. So I don't know, man. I feel like the midfield at the moment, if we had that trio of Partey, Xhaka and Odegaard and forget Declan Rice, or even if you want to add Declan Rice into it, I still feel we'd be in a better position. So Granit Xhaka, he ain't been replaced, Lee, has he? Let's just have it right.
No, and he hasn't. And what is the big thing for me? And I thought when we were signing Declan Rice, we'd probably use him more as an advanced player, and it'd be Thomas Partey, Declan Rice, and Odegaard. We've not seen that. We've not seen that because of injuries, but we also had the opportunity to see what that was like at the beginning of the season, and he chose not to do that. He chose to put Partey in as a right back, which was scandalous, like, you know, if I'll be really honest. We've missed Partey, particularly in the games when we play these sort of teams. You know what I mean? Like we've missed him. You know, like even against Man City in that tight game, he come on in that last 15, 20 minutes and tipped it our way. That's how important he was. But these sort of games, he's the one that can pick the ball up from the. And I if there is a criticism of Declan Rice, it's not a criticism. It's that Thomas Partey can find that pass better than him. You know, that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that he's got that ability to bring the player on, just go past him and then find that killer ball. And then Declan Rice being the one that can power through and all that. Like, we've not seen that. And I think that's something that needs to be done. if you haven't got Thomas Partey doing it, well, maybe then Jorginho could be doing it, but it's not happened. The last few
for a few games, Jorginho.
Yeah, well, and the reason that is, Dan, is because if I be really honest about it, Declan Rice has been doing very, very well in that role, and Kai Havertz has been up to standards, been playing really well. The last two games, Kai Havertz wasn't there for one of them, and the other one he was
invisible.
He wasn't there for either of them. He wasn't there for both of them. He was invisible on the two. So there's a big thing in that. You know what I mean? Like, we weren't saying that when we were playing Luton. Like I go back to that game against Luton. It was a little bit, like the goalkeeper made mistakes in that game. Otherwise, but it was an entertaining game. We looked like we could score every time we went forward. And that's not that Luton are that bad, because they've produced some good results and all that. But we went for it, and we was much better than what we are now. What we've done is the way that we're playing with this sort of like controlling the game has sort of stifled Martinelli and Saka, and maybe even Jesus to a certain degree, And I think now it's time that the manager says, right, I'm ripping it up now. We go for it. We go back to what we was last season and the success, and just bloody well go for it.
Facts, man. Listen, let's get through these ones really quick so we can wrap up the show in the last part. There's a couple of topics here that people are talking about, which I think are fair. This one, first of all, quickly comes in from Mark. Big up, Mark. Says, do you think Arteta's taking the natural ability and instinct away from the players by micromanaging every player on the pitch from the sideline? I do think there's an element of that sometimes.
Yeah, I do think there's an element.
Yeah. He tries to do a little bit too much sometimes, and I think that's a fair point. To be honest, this is another one I think needs discussing as well. Do you think we've wasted Emil Smith-Rowe? The guy's a real talent. Yes and no, because he has had injuries, so you can't say we've wasted him when he hasn't been available. But what I will say is he's definitely not in a pecking order at the moment, Lee. And he sat there the other day on a bench against West Ham, and not against West Ham, Fulham. Came on against West Ham. I thought he was probably the only one who looked all right, to be honest, going forward. Yeah. And he ain't got a nod, and he ain't got the nod. So I do think there's definitely lack of inconsistency again with who he actually rates. And because this guy, if you remember, he was close to getting a sack, Mikel Arteta, people thought, at 15, sitting there. Who stepped forward for him? This lad did, yeah? And since then, I ain't really seen the same Smith-Rowe. Now, some of that is down to his injuries, and to be honest, some of it's down to his performances, because he ain't really impressed me. But I don't really see him giving him much of a chance, Judge, do you?
No, I'm with you on that. I think that if you're Smith-Rowe, you'd be a little bit disappointed, especially when you see that the player in front of you that is Trossard, like is Martinelli, and he's not been at his best, But you could, do you know what? Turn around and go, well, okay, he's better probably than that role, so I get that. But then I look at Trossard, who's been given time, opportunity after opportunity, and I'm sorry, but I'd rather see Smith-Rowe get a chance now. If we play a full team on Sunday, the chances are Smith-Rowe's not going to be in that starting lineup. If we are to just make one or two, just tinker with a little bit, Trossard be the one coming in. So, listen, I think that it's a difficult one. I will say this in Arteta's defence about that is that he's very, very unreliable at the moment. Smith-Rowe with the injury sort of thing, he needs to have more luck with injuries and get a run in the team, and I think that's something that he needs to do. But for me now, it's as I say, that Smith-Rowe has been good for us, but when we was in our prime last season, he wasn't at the races that much, was he? So no. I get it, but I can see the reasons to that.
I just want to address a couple of things that haven't come in as questions, but are comments in the chat. This one, Dan and Lee, what was all that about with Martinelli not shaking Smith-Rowe's hand? That doesn't look good. And somebody else earlier said about Rice and Gabriel having to go at each other. I don't think that is signs of having to worry about it. I'll tell you why. I don't care if Rice and Gabriel are screaming at each other about whose fault it was. That's actually something I do quite like, because there's none of this nicey patting yourself on the head when someone's made a mistake. People look at that differently and say, don't want to argue it, and it was their fault for the goal straight after it, all that stuff. You can look into that if you really want to. And as for Martinelli, I just purely think he didn't see it and he just left him hanging and didn't realise that Smith Rowe's hand was there. I don't think he looked at him before saying your hand, I don't lie you. I really don't think that was the case. I think he didn't see him, and it's one of those that people have zoomed into it. But there's two topics I do want to bring up lastly, Lee. The first one is this question, which I absolutely hate from like some of the fan base. What phase of the process are we on now? Now, I know Chris is being sarcastic there, and I quite like it, because this phases and this project stuff is nonsense. And this comes in from John saying, are you worried about the Tottenham project and how quickly it's moving, plus the players that they're targeting in the market? I'm not worried about any project that anyone else is doing. I'm worried about the Arsenal project. But what I will say is, what phase is Emery in? What phase is Howe in? What phase is Postecoglou in? Why is it all different for Arsenal? Why are we in a process and no one else is? Why is it everybody else just tries to win now, like the Liverpools and Man Cities of this world? Because I'll tell you this now, there's no other project I look at in the setup right now that are talking about a process. Oh, we're only in phase one. Imagine when we get to phase 4. Imagine when we buy all these kids and we get them to 27 years old. Why are we the only ones in now? I don't get it. How about just win now? How about stop mucking around with all this? I'll give 5 years' time, because I already hear it. I'd love to see Evan Ferguson come to Arsenal. Imagine him at 24 years old. The kid's 18. What are you waiting 6 years for? How about just go and buy someone now who can win something now? I hate all this attitude, because that's his problem, Lee. We've had this with Roman Abramovich for the last 2 decades, where he just won now. Oh, but he had 15 managers. I'll tell you what, he did have 15 trophies. I don't care about this love affair that people have with managers being here for 5 years and building projects and processes. It doesn't matter if you don't win, just give him another year, just give him another load of money. I'm not about that. So this phases and process and projects has got to stop. It's done. This process is done now. He's had enough time. He's had 4 years, £700 million spent. And if he can't get us across the line, we get somebody else in and we don't all have a funeral because Arteta's left Arsenal. That is where I'm at. I'm sorry, that might be harsh. You can call me negative, toxic, bad fan, go support Tottenham, do whatever you want. I don't care anymore. I want to win football matches and I want to win trophies. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and listen, this thing about phase thing and all that is a complete myth, really, and all that. Like, if you was a manager coming into a team, the first thing is you got your players there. What you got to do is get your own players in, and that. So maybe that's the first phase, if you want to be really honest, like, you know what I mean. And then once you got the players in, you build from that, like, you know. I think that people just make this up, these sort of phase thing. There's no such thing as a phase thing now, like, you know what I mean? Because how I look at it is that, you know, Spurs have done really well this time around, so have Aston Villa, but that's to get you to a certain level, like, right? Well, the next, if you want to say it, call it a phase, is right. Well, you've then got to challenge Manchester City. I don't know if they've got that ability to do that, like, you know what I mean? So, and then they can go down or whatever, like, you know. So it's very, very hard to do that, like, you know. But I'm with you now. We've gone through the potential stages of their young kids coming through, but they're not at their prime yet, but they're ready to go. They're ready to rock and roll. Saliba, Gabriel, Declan Rice, Jesus, Saka, Martin, they're all ready to rock and roll, like, you know what I mean? So you need to bring on players that are going to go with them as well, like, you know. So that's where I see it. And you know, we had a great chance this season to nail it, and I think that at the end of it we're going to have regrets because of the decisions that the manager's made, and one of them being that the goalkeeping situation, doing that, I think will come back and bite us. I think it already has now. It's starting to show that there's a little bit of lack of team spirit and whatever. And I do think, you know, the stubbornness of not upgrading on Eddie. I'm not saying upgrading on Jesus or whatever, but I'm saying upgrading on Eddie. And that's nothing against Eddie or whatever. I think someone put in the chat a bit earlier, and we'll go through it if you want, like, you know. Let's start from the top going down. When does Eddie start in a crucial game to get you back at the top of the league, which was what on Sunday? You don't get in Manchester City's starting lineup. He doesn't get in Liverpool's. He doesn't get in Villa's. He doesn't get in Newcastle. He doesn't get in West Ham. Might get in West Ham's. I don't know. If I'll be honest,
not ahead of Bowen.
No, sort of transfer Bowen a little bit.
You don't get in Brighton's, mate. You'd have Evan Ferguson or João Pedro over him.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, Crystal Palace, you're coming into there, maybe. Wolves, I don't think Wolves, you know what I mean, would be, interested in, you know. So that's the problem that you've got there, like, you know, and so
100%, man.
I think at the end of the day that will be the two things. I think at the end of the day that will cost Mikel this season was that he disturbed the dynamics of the thing with the back, with the Ramsdale situation, which was uncalled for and no need to do it. And I do think not upgrading and not being ruthless like he was with the goalkeepers, he should have been ruthless up front.
100%, man. Listen, the last two questions before we wrap up something I do want to discuss because it's moving forward. Ash Big Up says, do you honestly think that we can beat Liverpool in the FA Cup? And Jay Myhill says, do we now prioritise the cups? Because I would with what's happening in the league. Judge, what would you do?
No, I don't think there's no need to prioritise anything. Like, you know what I mean? It's the next game. We've got to go for it. Like, you know what I mean? What's all this prioritising things and all that? You know, Liverpool got a semi-final next month as well against. This month now against Fulham. Like, you know, so they've got another.
They're in everything, aren't they? They're favourites to win the Carabao Cup. They're favourites to win the Europa League.
And they're not going to
probably be up there as one of the favourites for the FA Cup. And at the moment, they're top of the league. So they don't sit there and prioritise and go, oh, what one do we fancy going for?
They play every single game. They've got a great manager, by the way, that knows what he's doing. And we'll go for it. Like, but you know, for me, I think Arsenal are at home, and I expect Arsenal to win on Sunday because of that. You know, they're at home. You know, that's what I expect. And I expect Arsenal to then have a nice break and then come back. And I expect Arsenal to have changed a few things and be back. You know, and Mikel earning his money and putting two fingers up to everybody. That's what I want to see him do. And go from there. Do I think that he will do? That's my problem. I'm hoping that he does, and I'm you know, that's where I'm at, Dan. Like, you know, and I don't think we should prioritise anything. Like, you know, just make sure we beat Liverpool.
Prioritising is the reason we have gone so long without winning a title or a Champions League, in my opinion. Because you have to go back 30 years to win a League Cup, because we've always treated it like a scumbag cup. No one wants to win that. It's been 30 years since a European trophy, and when we do have a chance of winning it, in the last 7 years that we've been in the bloody Europa League, we were playing kids for the majority of it and getting knocked out. And then we go to a title, and we've just completely got nowhere near it. So I'm not being horrible when I say that, Lee. It's facts, bro.
No, I agree with you. You know, come every single FA Cup round, right? Say, right, we play Liverpool in this one. I expect us to go strong. If Burnley knock Tottenham out of the cup and we get Burnley in the next round, I expect us to go strong. If we have Crystal Palace at home or away, I expect us to go strong. The only time I don't expect us to go strong is we get a League One team at home at the Emirates. I can accept a few changes and all that, but I want to see Arsenal playing their best 11, their best team every single game from now to the end of the season. No 100%. Excuses about injuries and whatever, like, you know. I don't want us prioritising this or prioritising that. Every single game now is a cup final for us. Every single game we play is a big game for those players. That's the attitude that you get in there. That's the mentality you put in there. That's why Manchester City have been successful in winning things, because they do it in the League Cup, they do it in the FA Cup, and they do it whenever. And so does Jurgen Klopp. And that is what we have got to get into us as well, a winning mentality. Not, it don't really matter because we're not prioritising ourselves on this. That word is worse than process.
Facts, mate. Absolute facts. Listen, people, we're going to wrap it up there. It's been a good show. Thank you all so much for your interaction, and thanks for the super chats. Thanks for all your questions. Make sure you come and do us a favor. Smash a like on your way out. That means so much to the channel, and it does do so good for the channel as well. And subscribe. We're trying to get to 40k, which is the next target, and we're getting there. We're creeping there towards it. So please make sure you join the community. Lee and I will be on very regularly on this channel. I've got a show on mine tonight at 7 p.m. Make sure you don't miss it. I've got some very good and fun Arsenal guests on to talk about all things Arsenal. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. They've all got difference of opinions. It's going to be a completely lit show. So make sure you come follow me on Football's 12th Man tonight, 7 p.m. And we'll see you next time. Me and Lee, I'm sure, will be back to talk all things Liverpool. So that is our next one at Sunday, Lee, isn't it? Is it Sunday?
Yeah, that's the next one. I just want to address Lee Bowley's question. What do you think about Turkish cheating on the A's? He's a scumbag. There, I've said it. An absolute scumbag. I've got no time for him no more. He's a dirty, horrible man. and me and him are not friends no more. He's an absolute scumbag. There you go.
I can't believe it, mate. I must admit, I did watch a majority of your quiz with Talia, and I must admit, mate, you and Jordan got a bit done over there, didn't you? I mean,
God, done over, like, you know what I mean? Like, we had our pants pulled down.
I mean, well, the best one was your, I don't know what you call it, tic-tac-toe or noughts and crosses or whatever you call it, right? But when she's going, no, go bottom right, go.
Unbelievable. Told them what to do. You know what I mean? Unbelievable. Like,
and I love Talia, don't get me wrong, and I love.
No, I don't. I've gone right off her, like, you know what I mean? She keeps sliding into my DMs and saying, like, you know, Lee, come on, take me out on a date. I go, no way, I'm not interested, because you messed me over on the quiz. You know what I mean? So I'm not having it, like, you know what I mean? So
she's got a lot of making up to do. I tell you that.
Yeah, she's got a lot of making up to do, like, you know what I mean? So, yeah, like, yeah, so I got absolutely stitched up on that, like, you know, and like, you know, and when we done it, Dan, we went like, oh, we go there. She didn't go, oh, no, go. You can win it here if you go. She didn't help us out, you know what I mean?
Nah, exactly, mate. Favoritism, bro.
Favoritism. There was a lot of favoritism on that. Like, weren't happy about it, like, you know. So, listen, we moved, but yeah, Turkish is a scumbag, and we're ready. We're ready for Liverpool. Was it next Sunday? Isn't it? I'll go away after Sunday, that. Yeah. We'll try and do something.
Well, let's hope we don't have a replay then, otherwise you'll miss that one, yeah.
Yes. Do you know what? When I looked up at the break, I didn't realise there was a replay. So if there is a replay, I actually missed that game. So I've sort of not. Well, at the end of the day, I had to make the decision. You know what I mean, to go and see my brother. So we've done it now. Like, you know, there's nothing I can do. So hopefully, Arsenal get
enjoy it, bro. You enjoy it, bro. I'm sure you will. But now we'll be back.
We'll do something after Liverpool as well before I go away. Definitely.
Yeah, we'll do something before and after Liverpool, 100%. But we'll speak to you all next time, people. We're out of here. Take it easy and up the Arsenal. Laters.